I wanted to do this bookshelf tour knowing that I wasn't going to get through nearly as many as I wanted to. So I was just going to give you the gist of what my favorites are, why they're my favorites, and recommend any books that maybe people haven't heard of or maybe haven't tried yet but have been on their list and they know they want to read it at some point. Some of these books are books that are actually on my TBR that I haven't read yet, but I'm looking to read in the next year. Here is the gist of my bookshelf. In my office, I have a massive bookshelf that not only spans this wall, but also runs around the top of my office as well. There is plans for expansion from even what's there already. I'm hoping to do that here in the beginning of the year. I am someone who cherishes my physical books like trophies. If you see multiple books that are the same, or you see a lot of books on here that maybe even I don't rate that well, it's because I read that, I finished that, and I checked that book off my list. As a part of my bookshelf tour, I am going to review books that I absolutely loved and why I recommend them so much. They're so good. On my bookshelf tour, the first book that I want to show is Throne of Glass. Aelin is my all-time favorite character I've ever read. Sarah J. Maas got me back into reading like many people, but Throne of Glass, the series itself, is and always will be my all-time favorite. I have read a lot of other good books that I will cover in this segment, but Throne of Glass will forever have my heart. And I think Aelin specifically will always have a place in my heart because Sarah masterfully created a character that not only is all-powerful and kick everybody's ass, but is unapologetically herself and is never gonna do anything that puts herself or other characters in jeopardy without it moving the storyline along. This series, that character, as a whole, Sarah, well done. I cannot thank you enough for writing that series and changing my life. I also have multiple copies of this book. You'll see that one of the many times that I've read this book, I tabbed it. Don't ask me what they mean now. I don't remember. I do have this version of the books. I wanted the white versions, and I don't even know if they sell these anymore. Another prized possession on my shelf. If you're going to start with Sarah, though, this is not the series I would start with. I would start with A Court of Thorns and Roses. A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is the first series that I picked up of Sarah's. This series right here, it's a fantasy world. It really helps you escape. You fall in love with the characters. You fall in love with the story. This is the first story that you get a chapter 54 out of. Then any book you read after this, you have no trust. I do have multiple versions of this book as well. I have 3 of them. I have the special edition that I just showed you. I have the colored copies because I did not like the copies that were before this one. I also have the Juniper Books covers as well. I'm sure most of you have read this book, but if you haven't, pick it up. I promise you, you're probably not going to regret it. After A Court of Thorns and Roses, I would read Crescent City because I think that still has enough of the romance aspect to keep you interested, but also adds more complex world building to it. It's also a little bit easier to digest the world building because it's more modern day urban fantasy, so it's in a city, they have cell phones. This singular book is my favorite out of anything Sarah has written. I read Crescent City when it first came out, and I loved it. This book itself, before you get into any of the other books in this series, it could have just been written on its own, in my opinion. You didn't even have to go anywhere else with it. This book by itself was amazing. I loved every minute of it. Every time I read it, I love it more. This is probably the series that I have the most books of, just because there's only 3 books out and I have like 3 or 4 copies of each book. This copy of Crescent City, I think, is from Europe. So I actually ordered it from like England or something. This is my original Crescent City book. I talked in an earlier video about how I love my books in perfect condition, and this book is ripped and broken. It's definitely worn in because I've read it so much. I've read this book alone. Oh, I don't even know how many times at this point. So if you like something that's a little bit more thriller, fantasy, and someone who is college age, you'll love this book. Also, if you love a strong female main character, you'll love Bryce. The banter is amazing. I have people in my phone that I have changed their name to Bailey Rocks My Socks because of this book. So if you've read Crescent City, then you understand. then you probably have heard of Jennifer L. Armentrout. The first book I ever read of hers was From Blood and Ash, when only the first 2 books were out. I devoured this book. I devoured the second book. I love Castile. These books are well written, but I think Jennifer's world building is getting out of hand and it becomes harder to get through in the later books. So while I have multiple copies of this entire series, I have paperbacks and the hardcovers, the earlier books are easier than the later books. If you're a vampires and werewolf person, you'll really enjoy this. That's also what makes this so different than Sarah's books, because a completely different type of world than Sarah's. And I feel like a lot of people will compare books to Sarah because they're in the Fae world or they have Fae in it. If you're looking for something that is going to scratch that itch for you, I would try this series and see how you like it. You've probably also heard of Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing is going to give you dystopian, kind of like, you know, when we read Maze Runner and Hunger Games and Divergent. This is going to give you that feeling, but it's going to be more than YA. I assume most of you probably have read this book, but if you haven't, it is about a school for dragon riders. You cannot put this down. It is fantastic. I read this book twice in the first week that I got it, and then I've read it every time a new book has come out. So I've read this a total of 4 times already. It's so fun. It's so easy. It's not hard to understand the world building. I mean, you really can't go wrong. Now, I do have multiple copies of this book, and I will do a specific video just on this series. But if you're looking for a fun, easy fantasy that gives you the academy feel, the dystopian vibe, this is a book for you. If you love dragons as well, this is a really good one. Assuming a lot of people have heard of this one as well, but Quicksilver. This book is amazing. I have read it, I think, 3 times now. I would recommend it to anybody that's looking to get into fantasy. The romance in it is awesome. The banter is amazing. The female main character is strong and witty. Male main character is broody and all-powerful. I mean, it's got the recipe for everything you need to be in a good romance fantasy. Very good. I also do have multiple copies of this book as well. A series that's on my shelf that people haven't talked about as much recently, at least not on my feed, but was like all the hype a few years ago, and I think it's still a really enjoyable series if you enjoy anxiety. The Zodiac Academy series. I have all the books on my shelf, but I never made it through book 7. I think I stopped at book 7 because book 8 wasn't out yet. I got through book 7 and then I literally had to put it down because my anxiety was so bad that I was having like heart attacks, it felt like. This book is hard for people because they have a hard time with the bully romance. They have a hard time with the anxiety that this induces. If you struggle with any of those things, you won't like this series. But if you're just looking for something that's going to keep you turning that page and be obsessively thinking about even when you don't want to be, this series will do it to you. There's a whole universe around this that if you're interested in like diving into a long list of books that'll keep you entertained, these books will do it. If you have never heard of the Twisted Sisters, Caroline and Suzanne, they intentionally, I mean, they literally try to induce anxiety in their readers. It is their goal to put you on the edge of your seat, and they will laugh about it when there's plot twists and characters die and they make you want to throw the book across the room. You will want to rip pages out. You will want to put it somewhere that you never see it again, but you will still keep thinking about it. So if you haven't read any books by the Twisted Sisters, then now you know about them. Another series on my shelf that I have multiple books of is the Plated Prisoner series. The first book is Guild. I read this series when I think there was 3 books out, so I haven't officially read through the last couple. It's on my TBR to go back and reread these. I ordered signed copies of these books that are on my shelf. I devoured it when I read it. I do know that Aaron and Slade, I think they are the main characters. If you like anything fantasy romance, you're gonna fall in love with them for sure. It is a good book if you're looking for something different that's not just your traditional Fae world building, but it's still gonna give you everything you want out of a romantasy. This is a good series. I would recommend it. One of the books on my shelf that I would never shut up about is the Red Rising series. If you have not heard of this series, add this to your list. The first part of the series is 3 books. Then it jumps like 10 years in the future, I think. And then there's another 3 books that are out. The last book is not out yet. Pierce Brown has not officially announced whether it'll be 1 or 2 books, and he has not announced when it'll come out. We're hoping and praying it'll come out in 2026. Likely not if he hasn't announced it yet. Red Rising, add this to your list. So, what can I tell you about this book? This book is written in a world where the society is built on a hierarchy, and your place in the hierarchy is based on the color that you were born into. So the main character, Darrow, is born into red, which is the bottom of society. The top of society is gold. It's a story about reds trying to overthrow the government and infiltrate gold. The rest of the series is more about intergalactic warfare. So space warfare. Think almost like Star Wars, different planets, spaceships, war, fighting. If you like a character that is unstoppable and will just kick a lot of ass, you're gonna love this book. If you're looking for a book where there is found family, lovable side characters, really funny banter, right here. Super good. If you like audiobooks, this book is also for you. The narrator is phenomenal. I cannot express that enough. I listened to it the first time I read it and fell in love with the characters because of the narrator. You can't go wrong either way. Super good. You will see that I have multiple copies of this book because I got the new special edition that came out in 2025. It comes in this like book sleeve, which is super fun. Red Rising. And then it has... if you know, you know. And then it has the actual book, sprayed edges that go with the cover design, and the back cover. So, one of my prized possessions on my bookshelf. I love this book. I love showing it off. It is so cool. And I think he said he's going to do special edition covers like this for the rest of the series. I am, of course, going to try and get all of them. We will see, though. Next, I want to talk about a series, or universe, I should say, that I am so excited for, and that is Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere universe. The next book on my list is to start The Way of Kings. This is the Stormlight Archive. It is the main series, I would say, that people talk about when they talk about Brandon Sanderson. They are all fairly big books, and I know that people absolutely die for this series. I have read Mistborn Era 1, and I've read what is recommended to read of the like one-off books up until that point, and then I will be starting The Way of Kings. This series I think is gonna be one of my top series of the year when I get to it, but my goal is to have an entire shelf just for Brandon eventually on my bookshelf. So I can't even tell you what this book is about because I don't even know. I just know that it's so good that I have to read it and I'm going to love it. Another series that I haven't officially read yet, but I am looking forward to reading and have been on my shelf for quite some time now. It's disappointing that I haven't read them yet because I love the TV series so much, is Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, the TV series, if you know me, you know that I could talk about that all day long. I've watched it through at least 4 times. Yes, I am still mad about season 8 ending, so please, George, give us the last book. Game of Thrones. Now that I've gotten more into fantasy and sci-fi, I feel like these books are less intimidating to me. At the time that I got them, though, they were probably the most high fantasy books I had on my shelf, and I was told that they're really hard to understand. Because I've watched the show and I understand just like the layout of the world enough, I think that it's not going to be as hard as I originally thought it would be, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about these books. I just need to actually get into them and read them. I got these covers from Juniper Books. They are gorgeous. I mean, they absolutely stand out on my shelf. They look super pretty. I always get compliments on them. And if you have heard of them and you've read them, I know you're probably yelling at the screen, just read it. And I promise I will. It's on my list this year. I got a lot to look forward to. A new book on my shelf that there's only 2 books out in the series. It's not finished yet, but I know it's going to be one of my favorite series of all time is The Will of the Many. This book right here, I read in 2025. I read it after Red Rising. A lot of people will compare this book to Red Rising. I had enough time in between the books to separate them in my brain, especially after the ending of this book and the plot of the second book. I think we can all realize that this is nothing like Red Rising. When I talked about Red Rising, it was like intergalactic warfare. This book is... What can I say about this book that won't spoil anything? This book is about a boy who is living in the slums. He's fighting in rings just to make a little extra cash, and he gets picked up by someone who is higher up in the government to essentially be adopted by him and attend this academy for like the privileged youth. And he needs to not only survive the academy, but conquer it and then look for the mysteries that are hidden within the academy as well. That, I feel like, does not give you any gist to what this book is really like. But if you liked Red Rising or you like sci-fi, you will love The Will of the Many. It is amazing. I read The Strength of the Few this year as well. When I tell you that I was literally confused the first fourth of the book until I realized what was happening in that book. And then when it got to the ending, I am like, are you kidding me? How can we end like this? I need the next book now. But here we are. So The Will of the Many, people, read it. It's super good. I want to talk about a few other books that are on my shelf, and maybe they aren't the best books in the world, but they are treasures on my shelf because there's a story behind them. I want to start off with a book that I think most people have heard of if you were big on Book Talk a couple of years ago, and that is A Den of Vipers. And I remember reading it with a friend and we just laughed at the absurdity of this book at the time. And they have better covers now, but at the time when you ordered them, you could only get it like through Amazon or something, and the covers will literally like fall off. I mean, like if I open this book, it literally wants to fall apart because it was just put together so poorly. This is a treasured book on my shelf because of how popular it was at the time, because when I read it, it was something that I was absolutely terrified of and then laughed at. Do I recommend this to people? Absolutely not. If you are looking for something that is terribly written with multiple love interests, read this. You'll love it. I promise you. You will not be disappointed in the fact that it will keep your attention the whole time for no reason other than it's funny. It's not funny in the sense that you're going to laugh at like the banter. It's just funny because you're like, who thinks to write a book like this? And who thinks to read it? Me, I guess. One of the books on my shelf that I do recommend to people, even though I know it might not be everyone's favorite, is Light Lark. Light Lark is a book about a young girl who lives in a universe where each of the continents come together every 100 years to participate in a trial. She is alive when the next trial comes around, and she's the one that has to go. This book has a love triangle in it, which I don't feel like I read a lot of anymore, but I love. It is fantasy and it's mystery. There's a lot of like problem solving going on in here. Trying to figure out what's really true and what's not makes this book really interesting. You'll see that I tabbed this book at one point because I've read it a couple times. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I've really enjoyed it. The last book I want to talk about, I think, is a little bit controversial, especially after 2025. But when I read it, I loved it. It Ends With Us. I read it in literally 12 hours. I mean, I devoured it. I don't even think that the writing was fantastic, but I think that reading about an abusive relationship and understanding why someone would stay in one or what they could possibly be feeling in that situation was so out of the realm of normal to me that I couldn't believe what I was reading. And I think that's what really kept me in it. Do I love Colleen Hoover? I mean, she's fine. I've read a couple of her books. This was the first book I read of Colleen Hoover's, and I do think that as someone who's never experienced things that someone in this book would have, you learn a lot about a situation that you might have had other thoughts about. Now, after the movie, I have a bad taste in my mouth about this story, if you will. Does it ruin my experience when I first read it? No. I still really enjoyed it. I do have multiple copies of this book on my shelf because I bought multiple copies before the movie came out. After going through all of those books, I realized a couple things. I have a lot of books on my shelf that are part of a series that maybe I listened to some of the books and physically read some of the books. So I don't have all of the books in the series. So this is my excuse to buy more books for my bookshelf. Thank you for watching, and now you get the gist.